Welcome to In the Process. Today's episode is about being human in leadership. Why have I chosen this subject? Well, because there is something that I've noticed in the world that is just bothering me right now, and I have a hypothesis around it, and I want to share it with all of you. So, at the end of last year, the United Nations published their progress report on the Sustainable Development Goals. And you will know the Sustainable Development Goals. There's a series of goals out there around climate change and social equality, inclusion, and many different things where we are trying to make sure that we can create a sustainable and livable planet in the future. And what blew me away when I read that report was the alarm bells in the executive summary by the United Nations. The message is that since we launched the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs as they're called, I believe in 2017, we have only made progress on 17% of them. The remaining are either stalled or regressing. Climate, obviously, being one of them. And that made me think, this is really concerning. Now, beyond just focusing and complaining about the fact that it's concerning, I asked myself, well, why could this be? We are setting ourselves ambitious targets. There's a lot of work going on in the world around, environmental, social governance, ESG, sustainability goals. Companies have adopted this mindset, have established their own processes, functions. Why is it that not enough is changing? Now, it would probably take hundreds of episodes to analyze this, but I want to start with a hypothesis. The hypothesis is based on the fact that I believe we're trying to solve the wrong thing. We are trying to change the systems and the targets around the outputs these systems create without actually focusing on the human. Why do I say human? Well, if the human is the one that created these systems in the first place and got us to where we are today, say climate crisis, then the human is the only way that we can get out of it. So any solution we propose around driving a more sustainable future on this planet has to have the human in it. It has to start with the human. And this is what brings me to the subject of human-centric leadership. Leaders, and for me, you will hear me say this quite a lot, this could be anybody on this planet. The moment we are able to think and make our own decisions, we are leaders. So it doesn't have to be the chosen few or the ones with the big enough titles. Leaders, and let's assume there's 8 billion of us on this planet, we make decisions. And those decisions drive outcomes. And what I'm trying to say here is that we need more human-centric leadership. We need to focus more on actually ourselves first, to have clarity, to have purpose, to have intention, to act in line with our values, to act with integrity, so that we can go out into the world and do the same to others. So I want to share 3 strategies that I've recently shared in a Harvard Business Review article with others as well about how we can be more human in the way we lead so that we can show up as our authentic selves, act in line with our own values and purpose, and actually make decisions that are sustainable first and foremost for ourselves, and then the world we live in, the systems we lead. And those 3 strategies are, number 1, leading with purpose. It sounds cheesy. I know a lot is written about it everywhere in the world, and lots of articles and books, and everywhere we hear this, like, purpose is so important, purposeful leadership. It is important. How often do we ask ourselves when we go to work, and whatever capacity we lead in life, and that includes a parent, what is our why? What is the larger vision that drives the work we do, the impact we want to create? What do we really care about? What's the difference we want to make in this world? And the reason why I think it's so important to lead with purpose and spend time as a leader to identify what it is that makes us the leader we are is because that clarity is an anchor. In the world we live in, it is chaotic, it is noisy, we need an anchor that keeps us calm, maintains our mental clarity, and allows us to actually go out there and lead with intention. When we have that intention, that clarity, we won't fold to some kind of short-term gains or fears or worries. We will do the right thing long-term, because it's that anchor that's holding us steady. Second, focus on sustainable performance. Now, the word sustainability is used quite frequently in the context of climate, environment. When I talk sustainability, I'm talking about living a sustainable life or performing as a leader in a sustainable fashion. And there's a formula that is very powerful that I've come across in recent years from The Inner Game of Tennis, actually, the book, The Inner Game of Tennis. It applies to high performing athletes as well, especially in the area of tennis. And that formula is sustainable high performance equals potential minus internal and external barriers. And the point about this formula is that the focus should not be on the performance part. That's what we do with the sustainable development goals. We focus on too much of the outcome. Sustainable high performance is a result of a system or a way of being that we can create if we get it right. But it's not something we should focus on, because we're just treating the symptoms there. We're not solving the actual illness. Now, on the other side of the equation, potential, that's fixed. Every one of us come to this world with a certain potential. That is true for individuals, that is true for companies, nations, doesn't matter. A football team, it has a fixed potential. What we should focus on is actually the barriers, the internal and external barriers that are preventing our potential from coming out or translating into maximum sustainable high performance. What do I mean by those barriers? By these barriers, I mean fears, internal barriers, for example, fears, worries, anxieties, habits, anything that is in our mind, kind of the way beliefs that we have formed through the course of life, judgments, prejudices, anything that is related to our inner world that could be holding us back from being the best possible version of ourselves. And those can be knocked down, because the point here is actually to better manage those barriers, to reduce them so that we can translate maximum potential into performance. External barriers, there's a lot. Laws, regulations, financial conditions, organizational conditions, the people around us that we depend on. If we talk about internal barriers actually are the first leg of emotional intelligence. It's about how we manage the relationship to ourselves, self-leadership. External barriers are the relationship to others, to the systems around us. Therefore, one is about self-leadership, the other one is about systems leadership. And again, keyword system, we can't change the systems around us unless we change ourselves and focus on ourselves first and build that capacity from within to go out into the world and lead with that intention. If we actually first of all identify and notice these barriers, then work on reducing them, that's how we translate potential into sustainable performance. If we don't, all of us can translate our potential somehow into performance, but it won't be sustainable. It'll lead to burnout. The same is true for individuals, the same is true for companies, the same is true for nations, and the same is true for this planet. So that's the second strategy. So my question would be on this one, what's one thing that is holding you back? An internal or an external barrier that is holding you back from being the best possible version of yourself that you could get some help on to reduce or to knock down. Third one is be human. Now, this is easier said than done, especially in the world we live in, but be human. As an example, embrace authenticity over perfection. It's an area I'm working on. If you're preparing a presentation, it doesn't have to be 100% perfect. 80% is good enough. If you show up at work and you don't feel well as a leader, say that to your team. Say you're not okay. Be vulnerable. If you're busy running from one thing to another, and on the street you see someone that needs help, say an elderly person, stop and make the time to help. If you're not feeling well during the day and you feel overwhelmed or stressed, stop. Create that space to go out, walk in the park, take a couple of deep breaths, do what's right for you. By actually creating that space to be human, or by giving ourselves the chance to be human, we actually create that space, not only for ourselves, but also for others to do the same. So there's a ripple effect of well-being and psychological safety that we spread around the world if we as leaders show up and do that. So to summarize, lead with purpose, focus on sustainable high performance, and be human. And to connect it back to the context that I've started with, the world we live in and the fact that the sustainable development goals are not on plan, that the way we look out into the current future of this planet, we see a pretty dark scenario on many fronts. So I want to finish by saying that the world needs more leaders who connect with who they truly are, lead with humanity, and make decisions that enable positive and sustainable change. It starts with us, and it starts with going in ourselves. And this is why I want to leave you with a final thought. I'm very excited to be attending the Inner Development Goals Summit 2025 in Stockholm. It's going to take place between the 15th and 17th of October. I came across this network and organization in the last 3 months, and I just want to share with you the name, the Inner Development Goals, so that maybe if you're interested, you can have a look into it. The Inner Development Goals were launched, I think, 2 to 3 years ago, on the back of the fact that the Sustainable Development Goals framework is not progressing. And it's very much in line with what I've just said. The Inner Development Goals platform is arguing the exact same thing. If we want to change the systems and the outcomes of the systems that we have created, we have to first focus on ourselves as humans. Thank you for listening. I hope this was helpful in your own process, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episodes. Don't forget to subscribe, and take care.